Well, my name is Laura Lynne Jackson. First of all, I just want to say it is such an honor to be here. When I enter rooms and I speak with people, I feel energy. I feel a beautiful energy rush. So I feel each of your individual energy, and it kind of makes this beautiful sea of light. So thank each of you for being here tonight. I think we get invitations from the universe all the time. And then it's our job to either say yes or no. And each one of you accepted tonight's invitation to be here and be part of this experience and part of this conversation. So I'm really honored to also be part of this. I'm a mom, I am a wife, and I happen to be a psychic medium. And what the journey led me to discover was that the abilities I had, I think we all have. We just have to tune back into them. That's number one. But number two, they're meant to help people navigate their life paths here, because we all have these beautiful journeys that we're on. And I think when we understand that we're connected to one another and a higher realm, what I call the other side, it makes our experience more beautiful. And so I love having conversations about the nature of consciousness, the fluidity of time. So tonight is ideal for me.
What do the people once the people get to the other side, what do they want us to know that we didn't know or that we don't know? What are you hearing?
Yeah, it's such a beautiful question to ask. I've learned so much through the readings that I've done. I said, I'm a student all the time, every single time I do a reading, and I'm learning these beautiful ways that we're meant to live in the here and now, and how we're meant to connect to one another. To give you just a few of the broad things they have taught me, is that we are all here on earth having a collective lesson in love. And so any opportunity we have to give our love and kindness to someone else or receive somebody else's love, that's the whole point of life, in a nutshell. The highest ways that we can be, the highest feelings we can have when we're here, and the feelings that will always lead us to our highest and our best paths are forgiveness and gratitude, coupled with love. And so that simple advice has helped me navigate my own path and my own understanding of things. They've also shown me that things that will never make sense to us in the here and now about our lives or about our experiences make sense in the most beautiful way once we've crossed. Because our lives, so many of us look at our lives, in such a myopic way. We only focus on our own life and what we deem to be a success or a failure from this very limited view that we have of what we've achieved or not achieved. And we fail to see the bigger picture. But when you cross, you get to see the bigger picture in an instant. And you understand how many other lives you are always intertwined with, and how many moments of connection you had that influenced or helped somebody else on his or her path. It's the most beautiful understanding, and it happens honestly instantly. Time doesn't exist there as it does here. And I know we talk a little bit about the nature of time, but time is a measure that we use to learn our lessons and have this collective lesson in love here. And so understanding that fundamentally what you take with you is love. It's everything else filters out and you take love. And also doing readings for individuals that I've done, the information that would come through would frame their experiences that they had in their lives, some that were very painful, in the most beautiful, beautiful way. It all had to do with forgiveness and connection and understanding. And I think some of us, we hold on to these scripts about ourselves that we have hidden deep inside. That's the thing that they teach me that's most important, is that we spend so much time and energy here fearing death. And in the end, yes, bodily death is real, but death is not real in the sense that our consciousness stays completely intact and alert the whole time. And so when you cross, you're no longer confined by these heavy, cumbersome bodies that have their own limitations. You can only be in one place at one time. When you cross and you become, your consciousness not tied to these bodies, you can be in more than one place at one time. And you have this deep understanding of how your life connected with everybody else's. I don't know if you ever heard that term life review, but that's how they explain it to me. We each have a life review and we see those connections. So that's just the tip of kind of the iceberg of what they have taught me about our purpose here, our connection here, and how we need to interact both with each other but also within ourselves.
So,
Life, this earth is a school for our souls. And what's really interesting too is I think there's some fluidity between the past, the future, the present, all of that. Because what they've showed me, because they'll use my frame of context, they showed me, do you know what a maypole is? You know, and they'd have strings and you'd go around. They said, think of it this way. Your soul energy, your light energy is part of the greater light energy. But it divides out into these strings of different lifetimes where you're playing a role. But it's all tied on the other side. That's our true home. And it's all happening, are you ready for this, at the same exact time. So the lives that you're having, they're all intertwined. We have like linear time here, but on the other side, it's very, very different. I've tried to wrap my mind around this. I've even started studying maybe the science that could help explain this. You know, I think the quantum physicists are going to solve this all and prove, you know, consciousness exists after bodily death. There's this kind of fringe theory there, you know, called retrocausal quantum theory. And it basically, they look at how light goes through a barrier. It either has to choose to be a particle or a wave. And what they found is that, and you can Google this after, it'll be much better for you to read it, in a scholarly way than for me to explain it. But what they have undeniably proven through doing these light experiments is that the future and the present affect the past, which is mind-boggling. But it makes sense with how they explain it to me. So all our lifetimes that we have, it's our way of learning this collective lesson in love, and it's all connected to one another. And I do think that soul groups get born into lifetimes together. We're all together, you know. I think it all aligns because while we have these individual experiences, we're all part of the same whole. The way they showed it to me is we're all different leaves on different branches of the same tree. And when we cross, we can download somebody else's consciousness, their entire life experience in a millisecond. And when we get that download, we're experiencing everything they did in just this moment, in this blink. And so truly, what has happened to them really happens to us. We're all the same. We're all connected. And I think in that sense, we really are just one giant soul that's been shattered into all these points of light to have these experiences to rise back together. And I think it's once we understand that, you know, what they've taught me about true success in the here and now, it's not about having more than somebody. It's not about having power over someone. True success is finding and honoring the gifts you came here with, that you came programmed with, sharing them with others and helping elevate others so we all rise, you know, together in this really beautiful and profound way. You know, when I read, like I said, I kind of dissolve myself and I go into this other place, which is so liberating because I get to leave my ego behind. Sometimes I'll kind of be aware that I'm tied to myself. I'll be like, oh, look at poor little Laura. She's so limited. Like, oh, look what she's going through. And I have that awareness, and it's really wild when that happens. But I think that we choose to challenge ourselves sometimes, and it's always about love. It's, you know, every single decision you will ever have here, you're in your life, boils down to one of two choices. You either take the fear path, or you take the love path. And the fear path hides and disguises itself in other ways sometimes, but it's always, it will bring your kind of soul energy, your vibrational energy down, if you will, I could describe it that way. It's what will happen then, or what if this power is taken away from me, or what if XYZ does or doesn't happen. And the love path, you don't have to be happy when change happens, but you do have to understand that there's this greater force that connects us all, and it's the universe guiding you to a new experience, and that there's beauty and there's a lesson in that. And the minute you kind of surrender to that and open to it and trust in that, magical things can happen. And so I think there are many challenges that we face here. I also think we're the answer for one another. I think when we go through hardships here that cripple us, you know, they cripple our energy. It's the people who step up in love, sometimes who are complete strangers, that teach us our greatest lessons. So I think we are both the question and the answer for one another. But I can only share with you what I've been told from children who have crossed and from the other side. And what they have told me is it's all a lesson in love, profound love. And that our grief also is that cord of love and connection. They've said it this way too. Look, in the end, it's always a happy ending because death isn't real. And so when we leave our bodies, we realized, I'm going to be reconnected with that soul. I'm going to see my son or my daughter, whoever it is you've lost. And that connection is so solid and real. They've explained it like our lifetimes here are almost like a virtual reality experience. And the minute we cross, it's like all of you sitting there watching this take place, and right after, we're going to all meet each other right off the stage. It's that sort of experience where they don't have, those people who have crossed don't have a sense of loss, but we have a profound sense of loss. And so I would say the only way to look at it is to look at the cords of love that were left here. You know, I've heard the most amazing stories from children on the other side saying, here's all the people that helped me when I was ill. And that experience of feeling that unconditional love taught my soul something. Here's what they're doing in my name. And I'm a team of light with these people now. And my energy is still infused in that. And we're doing kindness, good things in the world in my name. My influence is still there. You know, and they'll talk about things that they've changed. I've had children on the other side tell me that their parents were involved in, you know, changing laws here and saving lives of people in the future. We're all in this sort of energy together. And so I don't think it will ever make sense when you're here. But I think the minute you shed your physical body and you're your consciousness and you get to see the person, you're like, oh, okay. You know, but we can't have that knowledge until that happens. So we're really in this place where we struggle to find the meaning and we look for how it possibly could make any sense. And I think it requires a very, very deep amount of faith and trust in the universe and in connection and in love, ultimately. You know, I think, so sometimes when I read for people too, I'll see that the first thing I see when I open to their energy is in an individual, if I'm doing a one-on-one reading, is I'll see what I call a core aura. And in that circle, that's just a term I came up with for it, I'll see either one or more colors. And depending on how it's arranged and what's in there, it's an entire language for me. So in a millisecond, I can kind of download this blueprint for the person's soul. And I will see a lot of things. And if I see the color purple arranged in a certain way, what I know is that the person I'm reading for is an advanced soul who has come here as a teacher and a healer and has also contracted with somebody else's soul who wasn't as evolved. And usually it's a contract to be born with one or more parent who's less evolved or a romantic relationship that's less evolved. And I call those people purple energy. And the beautiful possibility there is that the purple energy, because of, you know, the elevated souls being a point of love in that person's life, they have the ability to kind of master their soul test and grow. I will also tell you 95% of the time those purple energy do not master their soul test and grow, so it makes the person I'm reading for's life very difficult in a way. But we can't be in control of each other's soul journeys and tests. We can't take each other's soul tests for each other. So at some point, there's usually a time period allotted, and then it's released. And it's also our job to recognize and release when we can no longer help. We're not meant to drag our time down. That's why sometimes I'll see soul cycles, I call them. I'll get a timeline for the person I'm reading for, and I'll see, you know, from age, 17 to 24, you were learning this lesson. This is what they're telling me that you were focused on in your soul cycle. And then you've been in this one, and then, you know, you're about to enter another one next year, and it'll be a 7-year soul cycle. It's almost a theme, if you will. And I think there are certain people that are brought into our lives at certain times to explore those lessons and that understanding. You know, there's a concept of people that you meet. Are they a lesson for you? Are you a lesson for them, or does it go both ways? You know, it's either a lesson or a blessing. Some people say too. And there are moments that part of your soul journey and your soul test is to understand toxic energy and relationships and free yourself from it, not in a mean way, but with love and understanding that you can't fix that for that individual. But if you stay allowing yourself to be almost attacked energetically, it's going to shred your energy a bit, and you're not on your highest path then. So I think giving yourself permission to let go of relationships that are toxic and are of a lower energy is so important. Well, I think we're born into the families we're born into because our soul has chosen that experience or that test or that lesson is meant to happen for us. And whether you have an extraordinarily beautiful, gifted, loving childhood or a traumatic one, it does affect your path going forward. I think one of the reasons we're here is to exercise our free will. And from what I understand from the other side, free will trumps everything. We may not be able to choose what happens to us all the time. There are certain points of light that have to happen to each of us. It's almost like a connect the dots. But what we do control is how we embrace what happened. And I think, again, the lesson there is forgiveness, love. Sometimes forgiveness of yourself, of others, and focusing on love and finding a way to navigate your world without guilt by confronting the grief and moving through it and past it. It's almost like our childhood lays like the slab, like the foundation. But what we build on that, that's up to us. So I think it's so complicated, and you can't ever separate yourself from your childhood, but you also have such a path ahead of you to explore and create whatever picture you want from that. So I think it's they're meshed together in a profound way, but your childhood and the family you're born into does not ever define the course of your life or who you become.
And what do you think the place of art and music and creative work of all kind, like how does that fit into?
Oh, I love this question. I love this question so much. So I have a lot to say about art from the other side. What they have shown me is that, so when I see creativity, I see it as the color orange, and I see that in people's energy. I can see if they came here with an artistic gift or more than one. And what I also know then is they also need to bring art into their world, but this applies to everybody. When we bring art into our energy, it's like turning the brightness up on our connections to each other, to the universe. I know, because I feel it, when somebody creates a work of art, whether it's a painting or a song or whatever it will be, there's this beautiful channel that has come through them. No artist works alone. Every artist works with this beautiful team of light and this download from the other side. You know, just to give you a little, just talk about one particular, a literary work, you know, J.K. Rowling talks about how she got the entire download, she called it a download for the Harry Potter series, in this flash on a train. And I was like, that makes perfect sense. That was the team of light giving her the download. You know, even sometimes when you write a book, it just instantly comes through. When you're painting something, it comes through you. You're the vehicle, it comes through, but it's connecting and creating with a much higher realm. And when we then experience art, whether we're looking at a painting or we're listening to a song, and music is one of the greatest ways to experience, I'll explain that in a moment, we connect with this grand grid of light, to the creator of it, the artist here who created, to the team of light on the other side, and to everybody else who has viewed it and enjoyed it. And what the other side has told me is that the way to heal our societies and the way to advance our societies is to embrace art. Now, we're in a very sad way because in the United States, like in grade school, elementary, all of this, gym class is mandated, but art class isn't. And if you look at the cultures and the societies that had the greatest expansion of thought, ideology, and connectedness and all of this, it's times when the arts were fostered and encouraged and celebrated. So truly, art is the answer to everything in a way. And when we bring it into our energy, that lights us up, and then we can become a better version of ourselves. Music will shift your energy completely. It will clear your kind of vibration. It can shift how you're thinking. It influences and affects you. And even if you're the worst singer in the world, please go sing a song you love. Because when that vibration comes through you, it's incredible. It really is. So art is truly so necessary and so needed, both creatively allowing yourself to explore and also drinking in as much art as you possibly can.
And what about anxiety? What's the point of anxiety?
Well, anxiety, I think, the interesting part is I think anxiety takes place in this monkey brain chatter part, which is your frontal lobe. I love to work with scientists. I told you it was a very long journey to come to understand my abilities, and part of that included going to a psychiatrist, making sure I wasn't crazy, and then working with scientists to try and figure out what is different about my brain that I'm able to do this, because I think it has implications for all of us, and I truly think we could all do this. And what they found is that when I go from somewhat normal mode, they told me my brain doesn't look normal even when I'm in normal mode, but mostly I'm in that frontal lobe. In the frontal lobe, all the brainwave activity there is analytical thinking, thoughts, language, math skills, everything we learn once we start formal schooling around age 5 and up, which is why kids are very, very psychic, and then all of a sudden they're not. And what I think happens too is that when I read, what they showed me is my entire frontal lobe turns off. The brainwave activity silences. It looks like I am not conscious. When I go into reading mode, psychic and then mediumistic, and different parts of my brain light up. And I think we all have that capacity to connect in that way. And I think anxiety it's getting you stuck here. It's getting you stuck in this frontal lobe, and you're not able to trust that there is a plan. You're not able to trust that your life isn't just how you're seeing it and how you're trying to figure out. There's a surrendering that needs to happen. I think when we surrender everything to the other side, and it's a feeling more than it is a word, we shut off that part. We connect in a much deeper way, and the anxiety will dissipate. It's when we think we're in control and that we have to have the answer and we have to work it out a certain way, and if this doesn't happen, oh my God, my whole life is going to fall apart. That's when we have problems. It's when we start getting stuck in ourselves.
And where is that what you're calling the other side, and where when you get messages from, like, where are they?
It's a great question. Where are they? Where is the other side?
It's not such a great question. It's a stupid question.
No, it's a great question,
but
because some
it's the
people
kind of
picture it like,
question
you know, you look up at the clouds, you're like, oh, you know.
Yeah.
But out there, if you start looking at NASA, it keeps going.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, you know, the other side is right on top of us. The way they've shown it to me is like a piece of paper. We're here, they're here. Like, think of a tissue. It's that thin. And we can also connect with it because it is right here with us. Have you ever seen, the other way that I've tried to describe it, have you ever seen one of those pictures? They were very popular in the 90s or like a little bit before. And if you looked at a certain angle, it was one picture, and then you went this way, and it was like a piece of paper, like it was a whole nother picture. That's the other side. It's right here. It's right now. It's not this grand separation so far away. Right with us.
And what about dreams?
I think this is what happens when you dream. It's amazing because that frontal lobe goes offline. And so, like it or not, you're able to connect with the other side. I have a theory about sleep too. I don't think we sleep just to rest our physical bodies. I really think if we're like cell phones, you know, we need to recharge with our spirit, soul energy on the other side as well. And that is one of the #1 times that your chatter is quieted, and so you will get your own messages. A lot of times in dreams, you will get very symbolic dreams, and it will be the energy or the feeling behind it, and also the symbolism that matters. Because on the other side, there's no English. When I translate what I'm hearing, it's this emotional language that I then translate into English. I will connect with people whose relatives spoke, you know, Chinese or Russian, and they'll let me hear the language for a moment so I can identify and tell the sitter, but then I'll understand completely what they're saying. Animals too. Animals cross, and I do get messages. They'll tell me all sorts of things. And I will hear at times like words and things, but the language of the other side is really emotional and symbolic. So that will happen in our dreams. And in our dreams too, we also have visitations from people we love from the other side. We're all mediums. You know, it's just, you have to get rid of like all this to recognize and allow it to happen. And so I always say visitation dreams feel very much 3D, and they're an experience. You feel like you've experienced it, and you wake up and it's still vivid in your like mind and in your energy, where you know you were just with this person that you love. And usually in the dreams too, there's no dialogue. It's just telepathic. You understand the thoughts.
We have a lot of time for questions and so on. I just want to ask you one more thing.
Sure.
About drugs and alcohol. Like what, you know, like what are they here for? Or, not medication drug, I'm not asking, you know, like Western medicine or anything, but the sort of power that they have over us, or the need that we have for them.
Well, I think there's a different like extent to like every now and then in a recreational way versus people who really end up with addiction. Because, you know, when I talk about that lake and vibrational energies, when we take drug into our energy systems, what I see for all of us is always we're connected to each other with these cords of light and to the other side. And when you go into heavy drugs, those cords dim and you disconnect, and then you feel so, you're not tapping into the purpose that you're here. So that's with drug abuse or with heavy drugs. But I think recreationally, if somebody has a drink now and then, I think what they're really doing is they're shutting this up for a moment. And here's the ironic thing. There's a magic little formula that psychic mediums know. It's 2 drinks within a 90-minute period, and the information just flows. But if you go past that, it's no. I would, you know, not recommend that. That's it. It'll shut down after that. But I think that there's some switch there that it kind of alleviates, and for some people who maybe drink regularly, maybe they're tapping into that a little bit. But I also think the whole idea of drugs, too, is we're here to help each other. And I think that people who turn to that are usually in extraordinary pain. And they, instead of confronting that pain, they try to distance themselves from it. But when we get into addiction, in order to distance themselves from the pain, they're distancing themselves from all the cords of light at the same time. It goes hand in hand, so it's never the answer.
I like the image of the cords of light.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good.